I've never told this story on camera because it sounds stupid when you say it out loud. Like, I joined a gang for protection. But at the time, it didn't feel like a choice. It felt like the only way to breathe. Honestly, I wasn't trying to be tough. I was trying to stop being scared all the time. And the worst part is, for a while, it worked. Let me go back a bit. I was 16, living in a neighborhood where you learned the rules without anyone teaching you. Don't stare too long, don't walk slow, don't look lost, and definitely don't look weak. But I was weak. Not like physically tiny or anything. I was just obvious. Quiet kid, always thinking. The kind of kid who'd rather take the longer way home than deal with certain corners. School wasn't safe either. There were these guys who had this way of making you feel like you were already losing before they even touched you. It started small: shoulder bumps in the hallway, little comments just loud enough for people to hear and laugh. Then it turned into taking my bag, tossing my stuff around, making me ask for it back, like it was a game. And I tried everything people tell you to try: ignore it, walk away, tell a teacher. But in my world, snitching didn't solve anything. It just moved the problem closer to your front door. I remember one day walking home and hearing footsteps behind me. I didn't even turn around. My stomach just dropped automatically. That's what my life felt like, always bracing for impact. When I got inside, my mom was talking about bills, my little brother was asking for help with homework, and I'm standing there pretending I'm fine, while my ears are still ringing from fear. Looking back, I think what I wanted wasn't revenge, it was relief. I wanted to walk outside without doing a full scan of the street like I was in a war zone. That's when I started noticing them. There was this group that always hung around near the convenience store. Same corner, same older guys, always posted up like nothing could touch them. People moved around them. Even the loud kids from school didn't mess with them. And when they walked, it was slow, like they owned time. One of them, his name was Rico, caught me looking one day. I looked away fast. He didn't say anything at first, just smirked a little, like he already knew what I was thinking. A few days later, I'm leaving the store with a cheap drink, and Rico steps beside me like it's casual. He goes, "You live around here, right?" I nodded. That's all I could manage. He said, "You be walking alone a lot." I won't lie, my heart started beating so hard I could feel it in my throat, because it didn't sound like concern. It sounded like a fact. Then he said, quieter, "You got people?" And I knew what he meant. Not friends, not family, people. I hesitated, and that hesitation probably answered for me. Rico didn't pressure me. That's what made it worse. He just said, "If you don't got people, someone's always going to try you." He tapped my shoulder like we were boys and walked back to the corner. And I stood there holding that drink, feeling embarrassed, because he was right. And also because a part of me felt seen. That night, I stared at my ceiling and kept replaying that question: "You got people?" Because I didn't. And I was tired of paying for that every single day. So, yeah, a week later, I went back to that corner on purpose. I didn't tell myself I'm joining a gang. I told myself I'm just going to talk, like it was a normal thing, like I was just tired of walking alone. Rico saw me coming and didn't even look surprised. He just nodded, like, finally. He introduced me to a couple of the guys. They weren't all the same. One was loud and joking, another barely spoke, just watched everything. But the weird thing was, nobody treated me like I was invisible. At the time, that felt huge. They started small with me. Not like a formal initiation or anything, more like tests you don't realize are tests. Hold this. Watch that. Run this down the block. Just errands. But every time I did what they asked, I felt this little hit of confidence, like I was earning something. And the first time I walked home with two of them, I won't lie, I felt different. Guys who used to bump me in school didn't do it when they saw who I was with. They did that fake laugh thing, like they were never serious to begin with. Even teachers looked at me differently, like they were trying to figure out who I was now. It messed with my head in a way I didn't expect, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scanning the street. I wasn't listening for footsteps. I wasn't making myself small. And then you start justifying things without noticing. I told myself, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm just around them. I told myself, they're protecting the neighborhood. I told myself, at least they've got rules. But the rules were complicated. Like, one day a guy in our area got jumped by some dudes from another block. Rico was pissed, and everyone acted like it wasn't just a fight, it was a message. And that's when I realized something. The protection I wanted didn't come free, it came with expectations. Still, I stayed. Because going back to being alone felt worse than staying in something I didn't fully understand. At the time, my life started splitting into two versions. At home, I was still this kid doing chores, acting normal, helping my brother. I'd eat dinner and nod along like everything was fine. Then I'd step outside and my voice would change a little. My walk would change. I'd stop smiling. It's embarrassing to admit, but I practiced looking unbothered in the mirror. Honestly, I hated that I cared, but I cared. Then one night, Rico tells me to come through. His tone was different. Not angry, just flat, like business. I show up and the group is there, but nobody's joking. Even the loud guy is quiet. Rico pulls me aside and says, "You want to be with us? You got to show you're really with us." My stomach tightened right away. He nods toward this kid across the street, probably around my age, hoodie up, hands in pockets, waiting at a bus stop, just standing there. Rico says, "That's one of them." I asked, "What'd he do?" Rico looked at me like I missed the point. "Doesn't matter. He's been hanging around our side. People think we're soft." I remember staring at the kid and trying to find something, anything, that would make it feel justified. Like maybe he looked dangerous. Maybe he looked smug. But he didn't. He looked tired, like he'd had a long day. I said, "What do you want me to do?" Rico didn't raise his voice. He just said, "Go handle it. Make it hurt a little. Enough that he remembers." And in my head, everything got loud. Because I wanted to say no. I did. I wanted to step back and be like, "Nah, that's not me." But then I looked around and I could feel everyone watching without actually staring. Like the air itself was waiting. And I could also feel the other fear, the one I didn't want to admit. If I say no, what am I now? Because in that moment, it hit me. This wasn't protection anymore. This was a trade. Safety in exchange for becoming useful. I took a step forward and my legs felt weird, like they weren't mine. I walked toward that kid and I could hear my own breathing. He noticed me and his eyes narrowed, like he already knew, like he'd been through this before. And that's when I realized something that made me feel sick. I wasn't the scared kid walking home anymore. I was the footsteps behind somebody else. My hand clenched without me deciding to. My jaw tightened. And I could feel this pressure to perform. Like if I didn't do it, I'd be the weak one again. Like I'd lose everything I'd just earned. I got close enough to talk, and the kid said, real quiet, "Bro, I don't want problems." And I just froze. Because that sentence sounded exactly like me. It sounded like every time I swallowed my pride and tried to disappear. It sounded like the kid I'd been begging people not to hurt. I didn't hit him, not then, but I also didn't walk away like some hero. I stood there too long, pretending to think, pretending to be hard. And finally, I shoved him, harder than I meant to. just to do something. He stumbled back, caught himself, and his